Annette is going to walk into the bathroom. And for those who don't remember, Annette is Danny's mom. And of course, the joke is that Danny doesn't want his mom to know that he's in the tub with Mindy. So Mindy ducks down into the tub holding her breath. So that's all kind of a fun gag, but whose mom is walking into the bathroom while you're in the tub when you're in your 40s? That's super weird. Welcome back to another episode of The Rank. I'm John, and today we're going to be ranking the next episode of the Mindy Project. Now, for those of you who are new to the show, I'm just going to give you a quick agenda here. We start with the potent notables, which are just a couple interesting facts or tidbits that I found out about the episode or series. Then I go into the episode overview, which is where I talk about everything that happened in the episode from beginning to end, so spoiler alert. And then I do the rank, where I rank the episode based on 5 categories on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best, all to find out what are the best sitcoms of all time. And in this episode, I'm going to be ranking the 9th episode of the 3rd season of the Mindy Project, titled How to Lose a Mom in 10 Days. Written by Tracy Wigfield and directed by David Rogers. All right, let's find out how this one stacks up, starting with the potent notables.
Potent notables.
So the 9th episode of the 3rd season aired Tuesday, November 25th, 2014. We have a lot of similarities with other sitcoms in this episode. First of all, the bath scene is very similar to the famous Friends scene with Chandler and Monica. Secondly, Mindy mentions that she once had a parasite and lost a lot of weight, and one can only wonder if this happened when she was working at a paper company in Scranton. I say that because her character, Kelly, in The Office, swallows a tapeworm in one episode in order to lose weight. And finally, a coworker dating another coworker's mother is very similar to a character arc from season 6 of The Office, where Michael dates Pam's mom. Anyway, those are the potent notables. Let's go to the episode overview. So we open the episode with Mindy trying to convince Danny to get in the tub with her. And Danny doesn't want to because he's like, isn't taking a bath like marinating in your own filth? I mean, I get it, Danny, but also your girlfriend's naked in the tub and wants you to get in with her. Of course, Mindy's able to convince him to get in the tub by referencing Scarface. And when we cut to him finally being in the tub with her, it's super awkward because he's like sitting on top of her. Eventually, though, what's gonna happen is even more awkward. And what gets the plot of the A story going. Annette is going to walk into the bathroom. And for those who don't remember, Annette is Danny's mom. And of course, the joke is that Danny doesn't want his mom to know that he's in the tub with Mindy. So Mindy ducks down into the tub holding her breath. So that's all kind of a fun gag, but whose mom is walking into the bathroom while you're in the tub when you're in your 40s? That's super weird. Poor Mindy, she's gonna end up having to hold her breath for a really long time here. And when she comes up, she's like gasping for air. As Annette's leaving, she's like, bye, Danny. And then she's like, bye, Mindy, enjoy your bath. And Danny's like, you blew it. So after this bath incident, Mindy's telling Danny like, hey, your mom is too close to us, which, Mindy, you're right. But we get more evidence of this as she says to Danny, I texted you some spicy stuff and your mom texted me back. And instead of seeing her point, Danny's like, yeah, my mom looks at my phone, so you should stop sending me nudies. Said no guy ever. You don't tell your girlfriend to stop sending you nude pictures. I wish my wife still sent me nude pictures. Anyway, these scenes give us the pretext for Mindy wanting to get a little separation between her relationship and Annette. I gotta say, I'm very much on Mindy's side on this one. And after this, we're introduced to the C story, which is that some older doctor, Dr. Lendro, is thinking about retiring. And because of that, Jeremy is kissing his ass because he wants Dr. Lendro to refer all his patients to their practice when this guy retires. The problem is that Dr. Lendro is super boring. And I really enjoy the way they show how boring he is. Like in this first clip here, he's talking about gardening, like he's giving tips about aphids. And later he's going to talk about a robin being at his bird feeder and then another robin coming. It's boring stories, but honestly, I feel like I would like this guy. Maybe I'm just a boring dude too.
Let's not go for the low-hanging fruit here, Don.
But then we're going to go to the B story, which is that Tamara broke up with Morgan. She dumped him. And Beverly's gonna be like, Morgan, you always bring your shit to work. Like, you always bring your personal stuff to work while she's shucking corn. But the thing is that nobody is surprised that the relationship ended. With Mindy even saying to Tamara, what happened? Did you finally look at the two of you in a mirror? Morgan gets understandably upset by this remark, because like, what the fuck, Mindy? And also, I'm pretty bummed that they broke them up so unceremoniously. But in Morgan's fragile state, he can't be in phlebotomy anymore. He's got to move his desk. Where's he gonna move it? He puts it in Peter's office. Of course, he wouldn't if Dr. L wants to let him go to her office, and she's like, no. And then he's like, Dr. C? Danny says no. But then he asks Mindy again, and she responds, maybe Danny. So he asks Danny again, and he says no again. But the idea that he would circle around again immediately, and then Mindy would then say to try Danny, I don't know, that's just funny to me. But that settles it. He's going to be working in Peter's office, which Peter's not too thrilled about. But we're going to go back to the earlier point about the texting that Mindy was talking about, because she's going to text Danny that she's got reservations for 2 for them for later, and it's in her pants. And immediately, Annette is going to respond by saying he can't do that because he's untangling Christmas lights or something for her, and that Mindy is gross. Now, Peter just happens to be there when this is happening, and Mindy says to Peter, hey, have you ever dated a girl whose mom just is always around? And Peter's like, yeah, it was super awkward. And then he goes, is your situation like mine in that you were also dating the mother? But this is going to lead to the advice that Peter gives Mindy about Annette. He's like, you should just get her a date, pawn her off on somebody else. And Mindy has an epiphany that she should set up Annette and Dr. Lendreau, the boring doctor. And so she goes up to that doctor and she's like, hey, do you want to go on a date with Dr. Castellano's mother? And he's like, yeah, of course I do. Okay, this couldn't have gone better, really. So we're going to head over to Staten Island now. And Annette is excited about the date as well. We're going to find out that Annette hasn't been on a date since 1974. And she's like, I don't know, is it still the same? Do people still do the same things? Are people still doing cocaine? But what she's wearing, Mindy thinks is not good for a date. Mindy ends up giving her some clothing of hers. And Annette is like kind of really excited. It's kind of sweet. She's really excited to go on a date. And then she turns to Mindy and was like, what did Danny say when you told him about this? Naturally, it's at that moment that Danny walks through the door and is like, what the hell is going on? Why is Ma dressed up like the tart of Staten Island? But Annette's not going to succumb to this, though. She's excited about the date and she's determined to go. It doesn't help, though, when her friend Dot is like, oh, your date's here, and he looks like he's got sex on his mind. And Danny and Mindy are going to end up having it out a little bit after this. And we actually find out here that Annette has been pushing diets and weight loss on Mindy. And on top of that, Mindy is going to listen to a message from Annette all about how well the date went. But then Mindy cuts it off when Annette clearly starts talking about dieting again when she brings up a dietitian. But we're going to go back to Peter and Morgan for a little bit because Morgan's sadness is really starting to annoy Peter. So he decides to help Morgan set up a dating profile. Now, this is all kind of generic sitcom stuff, but I did enjoy when Morgan was asked about his income. His answer was impoverished. But after this, Mindy's going to run into Dr. Lendreau again, who still has Jeremy clinging to him. But he seems sad. Mindy doesn't understand. She heard that the date went really well and that they've got another one coming up on Sunday. But clearly that date is not with him because he said he never heard back from her. So we head back to the office and we get to see who Morgan matched up with on the dating site. And now Morgan is really excited about this, and Tamara, we see in the background, is looking on concerned. And this is how we find out that Annette enjoyed dating so much that she wants to play the field. Now, how did we find that out? Because she matched with Morgan. And even though Mindy tells her that New York City is full of hot gays and bald straights, Annette still wants to play the field. So Mindy cooks up a new plan. She wants Morgan to go on a date with Annette. She's convinced that that will scare her away from playing the field. But she insults Morgan again by saying, don't try to tank the date, just be yourself. So even though Morgan accepts the $200 payment for this, he's still going to end up showing Annette a good time. We don't get to see this good time, we can only infer it. Because when Mindy calls Annette to ask about the date, Annette's gonna be like, I don't wanna play the field anymore. And Mindy's like, that's great, right? No, she doesn't want to play the field anymore because she only wants to date Morgan. So Mindy's obviously pissed and rushes back to the office to confront Morgan. When she asks Beverly where he is, Beverly says he's in the courtyard with Dr. C playing catch. And I just thought that was such a good joke. And they sort of hammer this home when we get there to see them, with Morgan doing a lot of I'm your new dad jokes. Either way, this is where Danny is going to find out that Morgan is dating his mom, and it's just great. So Danny's going to blame Mindy and insist that he needs to stop his mom from doing all this dating. In the meantime, Tamara has come to Peter to say she wants Morgan back. She's feeling bell jar as hell, which was a solid joke. Have any of you ever read The Bell Jar? I remember being depressed for like a week after reading that. Was that just me? Anyway, Tamara realizes that she wants to fight for her man, especially after finding out that he's dating an older woman, which Tamara thinks is gross because old women are gross. Back to the A story though, and Danny and Mindy are out to dinner. Danny's telling his mom she has to stop dating, she has to stop playing the field, and then Morgan shows up. Annette invited him because she thought it'd be a fun double date. Danny insists on Annette going outside and talking to him, and Mindy makes sure that Morgan doesn't leave. So we end up with two different moments here, right? We've got Mindy with Morgan, we've got Danny with his mom, and we get a touching moment between Danny and his mom. She's gonna tell him that she didn't date for so long because she felt guilty. She didn't want to bring home another man that would disappoint him and Richie. And in the restaurant, Morgan is gonna tell Mindy, look, you hurt my feelings. And I get it, Morgan. Of course, that means that Mindy's now gonna tell Morgan nice things about himself, right? And naturally, that is the moment when Tamara comes in, seeing Mindy saying nice things about him and saying that he could do better than Tamara. She gets incensed and is convinced that Mindy is actually the older woman that Morgan is dating now, that Mindy stole her man. But when Tamara realizes it wasn't Mindy that he was dating, that he was only dating to prove a point, she calms down because she knows all about that kind of dating. She once went on a prove a point date with Yao Ming. What, somebody on this writing staff really likes basketball. Anyway, she's gonna make herself vulnerable to Morgan and say, I really want you back. And he's like, no thanks, Mindy says I could do better. So we close out all the story loops with Dr. Ledreau saying that he's dating Annette and that he feels so much younger from dating Annette that he's thinking he's not gonna retire anymore. Tamara can't work in phlebotomy, so she moves her desk to Peter's office. And Morgan, after saying goodbye to Peter's office and turning the lights off of the office while Peter's still in there, Morgan goes to have a fatherly talk with Danny. He says even though it didn't work out with me and your mom, he still loves him. And he reassures Danny that nothing happened, even though Annette really tried to make something happen. So Danny throws a stapler at him. And it really looks like the stapler stapled him. But Morgan leaves. And you'd think that would be the end of the episode, but it's not. We end where we started, with Mindy and Danny in a bathtub together. And once again, Annette is around. She knocks on the door, and apparently that is enough improvement for Mindy. Like, at least she knocked. And at first they're like, Ma, don't talk to us or whatever. But then she offers them some ziti, and Mindy's like, hey, that's the perfect bath time food. So they ask Annette to bring in the ziti. That's super weird. Whatever. Anyway, that's the end of the episode. Let's find out how it ranked.
A rank.
So the rank is where I rank the episode based on 5 categories: story, acting, dialogue, episode coherence, and character relatability. I rank it on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. And then I have a laugh counter where I tally up the amount of times the episode made me laugh. 1 point per laugh out loud gets added to the score. And before I dive into the rankings here, I just want to say if you're enjoying this episode, please leave a like down below. It really does help me out. But without further ado, the first category is story. And the story is that Danny's mom is too invasive and Mindy needs her to get off her back. That's fine. The B story is about Tamara breaking up with Morgan for no real reason, and him not taking her back for just the tiniest bit more reason. And then there's a C story about a guy who's going to retire but then doesn't. It's not the best story ever told. It's fine for a sitcom though. I gave it a 2.5. So that brings us to acting. The acting is generally quite good in this show, and it continues in this one. I feel bad that we haven't had as much for Adam Pally in the past couple episodes, but he was good nonetheless. Everyone was solid, and Rhea Perlman was fantastic. I went with a 4.5. That brings us to dialogue, and as I always say, it's always funny. This show just packs in so much humor. Anyway, for sheer ability to make me laugh, I gave it a 5. And that brings us to episode coherence. I liked the way they were able to blend the 3 stories and make them all sort of matter together, but it still did feel a little cobbled together. Like, I feel like we deserve more than Tamara just dumped Morgan, and Dr. Ledreau was just automatically thrilled to go on a date. Like, okay, so I guess he's not married. We didn't really discuss any of that, and we can infer it, I suppose. I just feel like it burned through everything a little too quickly. So I gave it a 3. And that brings us to character relatability. I do not relate to having a parent coming in on me while I'm bathing with my significant other. I also don't relate to being a parent who would do that. We also didn't get much to relate to with Tamara and Morgan, and on that, there frankly should have been more. But I could definitely relate to Mindy. Because as outlandish as this situation is, I can certainly relate to wanting to make it stop. Anyway, I gave it a 3. And as Mindy often does, it overperforms in the laugh counter. It got me 24 times. So that puts the grand total for this episode at a 42, which means it's a meaning of life. The laugh counter sure does matter a lot for these rankings. As it should, right? Their sitcoms are meant to make you laugh. But as for the series average, it goes up to a 37.1, continuing to be in the holy grail. And if you're ranking along with me, drop your scores in the comments. I'd really be curious to find out where we differ here. And I really want to know if my laugh counter is crazy high compared to everyone else's. So thanks for listening and or watching. Check out my other Mindy Project ranking episodes or any of my other sitcom or movie ranking episodes. Remember to subscribe, comment, and like. You can see updated rankings at therankpodcast.com, where you can also email me at john@therankpodcast.com. And if you want to support the show, you can become a patron at patreon.com/therankpodcast. But I will leave you with this. Just like Annette, Ted Kaczynski's mom always offered him something while he was in the tub too. Bath bombs.
Random.
She knows about dating to prove a point. She once did a prove. But when Tamara realizes it. But when Tamara realized it, what?